Hello and welcome to YPO Presents Ask the Experts. I'm Gemma Martini, CEO at Martini Film Studios and member of YPO British Columbia in Canada. Today I'm joined by two amazing business leaders and fellow YPO members, Steven Galanis and Sergio Alfaro, to discuss the future and work in the entertainment industry. We are going to explore shifts in the entertainment industry, challenges facing the creative workforce, and what it means for consumers, businesses, and leaders. Welcome, Steven and Sergio. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Steven, I know that you're the co-founder and CEO of Cameo, which I think is a brilliant video sharing platform connecting fans to celebrities. Would you mind sharing a little more about your background and experience with our audience and how that came to be?
Sure. Cameo is a marketplace where you can book over 50,000 of the most interesting people in sports, entertainment, popular culture for personalized video messages for either your family or friends or your business. We had the idea 7 years ago. My co-founder, Martin, was an NFL agent who had also been a movie producer, and he was trying to find a way to get a non-star player some off-the-field income. This player was a backup defensive end on the Seattle Seahawks, and he showed me a message that he'd gotten where this guy was congratulating his friend Brandon on becoming a father for the first time. He showed me the video right away. I kind of had the eureka moment that the selfie was the new autograph, and from there, Cameo was born.
I love that. The selfie is the new autograph. That's amazing. Thank you, Steven. And Sergio, you are currently the CEO of InventTV, and you have extensive experience in television and live events. And can you share your background with our audience?
Sure. Started in live events in the mid-90s with Ken Ehrlich, doing lots of live events, award shows, specials, things like that. And then during the writer's strike 15 years ago, transitioned into unscripted programming and been doing that for the better part of 15 years.
Wow. Thank you. And for those of you who don't know, YPO is a global leadership community of more than 34,000 chief executives in more than 150 countries, driven by the shared belief that the world needs better leaders. One of the benefits of being a YPO member is the opportunity to connect with leaders like Steven and Sergio and have conversations like these where we can engage in idea exchange and lifelong learning around business topics and create deeper relationships through virtual and global reach. Before we get started, we'd like to remind all of you watching live that you can ask your questions by posting them in the comment section below, and we will answer them as time permits. Now, let's set the stage for our audience and start with some high-level observations on current trends in the entertainment industry. I certainly have felt a shift in the last 18 months in particular with the changes that are happening. And in our ecosystem of production services here in BC, we are feeling those changes that are coming. And so I'm very curious, what major trends are affecting the entertainment industry going forward from your perspective? And Steven, we'll start with you.
Sure. I think the biggest trends that are affecting the entertainment industry right now are trends that have been going on for most of the last decade. Namely, I believe the rise of the creator is really the single largest trend, facing entertainment going forward. As a good example, one of my best friends from college was somebody that moved to Los Angeles with dreams of becoming a star, just like so many people, spent years and years auditioning, never getting cast to anything. And then he started messing around on a social network called Vine. Very quickly, he became one of the most famous people in the world on Vine. And today he's got over 10 million followers on YouTube. That ability to just kind of put your own content out there and build your own audience direct to the fans is huge. No longer are you relying on a casting director or a producer to actually put you in a film and cast you. If your content's good enough, the tools exist online for you to earn your own living and ultimately cultivate a huge following.
Yeah, and it's incredible that the power is given back to the creator in their hands in the examples that you gave, which is incredible. So thank you for that. And for Sergio, from your perspective, what are you seeing?
Honestly, same thing. I think that this ability for people to now find their own voice however they choose then allows, actually for us, makes it easier to get them and put them on linear or streamers. Nowadays, it's all about your numbers. It's a lot harder today to sell a show on just nothing, right? Like, here's a cast of people. Now it's like, well, what are their socials? How many people are following them? What are they doing? It's a much deeper dive, and to Steven's point, it's really what can you do and how fast can you grow this audience organically? This direct to consumer world is really taking over. And I think it's great because anybody can become a star. You don't need somebody to help you along the way.
Yeah. And Sergio, along with that point, there's 50 million people in the world today that consider themselves creators. Now, are every one of them going to become, the next Charlie D'Amelio? They're not, right? But at least everybody has the potential to go do that. And when you look at the tools that are out there and exist, you look at YouTube, right? And someone like Mr. Beast now has 200 million subscribers. It's been rumored that his catalog he was offered over $1 billion for his catalog, and said, hey, I'd need probably a factor of 10 more than that to even start entertaining it. And every one of his videos gets more views than something playing in the Super Bowl. You look at rappers that can blow up on SoundCloud. They no longer need a label. They're not dependent on the same distribution needed from radio. In television, we mentioned same thing. Like, you don't need to be cast anymore. You can just put your content out there, and the tools exist now that if your content's good enough, you will find an audience. And every single day, TikTok's creating more and more celebrities of the future. So I think it's super exciting. The pipeline's great. When you look at high school kids, more high school kids want to be influencers than want to be, cops, robbers, doctors, and lawyers combined. So the pipeline's strong. And, I've heard the CEO of Patreon actually say this, and I'm going to borrow it here. He thinks we're living through a new renaissance, and the tools that exist, whether it's, the iPhone, being able to produce content that's just as good as some of the cameras that you guys will use in producing real shows. It's really just been a complete game changer.
Agreed.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's the digital technology piece that we're talking about. So the digital transformation is huge in the way that the changing landscape is happening. So if we jump over to the digital now, we've heard a lot about AI and the news and how it's related in particular to the challenges that are happening with the strike in Los Angeles. But just generally, Steven, how does Cameo fit into the evolving landscape of how it's addressing emerging technologies like AI and automation? How are you incorporating that? How does it challenge or improve your business?
Sure. Well, as I mentioned, Cameo, we work with over 50,000 different athletes, actors, and entertainers. And one thing that I've long told my team is that, we should be thought of by talent as their CTO, right? Like, we run a tech company, we have product managers and designers and data scientists, and your average actor is not going to have that. So let us go and innovate for you, and let us be dabbling at kind of the edges of technology wherever they are. And when it comes to things like generative AI, it really has potential to be really exciting going forward. Authenticity is so important to us. When you see a Cameo video, part of what makes it special is it is the real person doing it. And many people have talked about, well, why not just go and create a generative AI model of that person? Taylor Swift could go be on tour, and for $20, she could do an unlimited amount of birthday messages. I don't know yet that there's a market for that. I do think people will try it. And I do believe broadly that talent are IP. One thing that we felt 7 years ago when we were starting this business was, if you looked at the 100 biggest brands on earth 7 years ago, they were all companies, Coca-Cola, General Motors, Nike. But when you look 10 years from now, many of the biggest brands in the world are going to be people, and those people are going to be looking for interesting new ways to monetize. You think of someone like Messi, who recently came to Miami, biggest soccer player in the world. He has 600 million followers on Instagram. When he posts what he ate for breakfast, more people saw that than watched Michael Jordan hit the game-winning shot in the 1998 NBA Finals. So the reach is just absolutely incredible going forward. And where we have started dabbling with the emerging technologies is actually with animated characters. We launched last Christmas a product called Cameo Kids, where we partnered with Kevin Mayer and Tom over at Candle Media to bring Cocomelon, the #1 YouTube channel in the world, for kids to life. So now you could get Nina and JJ and some of the big characters to actually like tell your kid, to be nice to their little sister, or help them go learn to be potty trained. So the use cases are really cool and fun. But that's the first place, bringing digital characters to life is the first place that we've been really leveraging this exciting new technology.
Yeah, that's incredible. And how about Sergio, from your point of view, how does the whole AI and emerging technology contribute or change what you're doing?
It really helps us build the foundation, to be honest. Like, I think from a writing perspective, it doesn't have a human touch yet, but it can give you a good foundation. So if we were to type something in of like, help us think of certain ideas, it gives you a good basis. It's almost like building a home, right? Like, tell me how to build a home. Well, you need pillars, you need foundation, you need plumbing, lighting, electrical, but it doesn't have that mentality of like the human touch of it. Like you could say cast a housewife show, but only a human could cast a housewife show. You need to talk to somebody and know this person is the right kind of bananas to have their own show. So I don't think AI has that ability yet. So I actually like what it can do. I'm not afraid of it. I think, part of what Steven said is that growth of companies back then to today. There's this mile marker I heard recently that it took Facebook over a decade to get 100 million users. It took OpenAI months, not even years. It took TikTok years to get 100 million users. So to not be using it, you're just going to be behind technology. And I think that it's a good tool to help get you. I see it like a sous chef in the kitchen, right? It's going to chop everything for you. You still have to cook. So I think it's very beneficial for us in our business for it to do the things that just take a lot of time so that we can then fine tune it with the human brain.
And I completely agree with you. If we see it as a tool, it seems a little less scary than it is if it's going to take over in some way. So I like your perspective on that. Let's use it as a tool to help support us and leverage it to get us to the next level. Yeah. And so just to kind of in that, obviously the strikes and the writers and the actors have been strike for quite a while now, and the writers have gone back, which is great, and the actors are still at the table. And they're on strike for better wages, protections against the AI, and more stability and transparency around streaming. And obviously these have had an impact on your business. And so how do you see the changes that are happening and the conversations happening at that table? How do you view the relationship between management and labor changing in the future? And how about teamwork and collaboration? How do you see the rise of remote work and virtual production impacting work dynamics? So that's kind of like a two-part question in essence.
Well, I actually love it, quite frankly, because part of what we talked about earlier with AI and giving you that foundation and remote working. So people are afraid of AI taking their job. You know what it's not going to take? It's not going to take your job as a parent. It's not going to take your job as a human. So if you could do the prep work for me and I'm working remotely, that gives me more time with my family. So thank you, AI, for giving me that foundation. Thank you for allowing me to spend more time with my family. I think remote working has been phenomenal. I feel that my employees and workers work harder. I get emails from them on the weekend, at night, in the mornings. It seems as though there's no off switch. I also don't mind when they say, hey, I'm off between 3 and 4 because I'm picking up my kids. Good for you. I think AI, if it could help us in this way, it's going to give humanity a better sense of family. I personally like it a lot because it gives me more opportunity to be with the things that are more important to me. So if a computer could do the foundation work, right? The pillars, the electrical, the whatever, it gives me more time to focus on the important things like my family, and on the creative, I can be more finite in what I feel people will tune into and watch.
Yeah, and in terms of that kind of that remote working environment, I think the challenge though is the culture. How do you continue to maintain your culture if everyone is at home working and there's not a lot of opportunity for interaction? How do you and your company do that?
I think it's better. What we do is we have more gatherings, right? So if we've shut down one of our offices, we still have another one. But now the amount of money I'm saving on not having an office once every few weeks, we all get together, we go to Soho House or we go to a restaurant, and it feels more like a treat, even for the team. Like, hey, we're having a nice dinner, we're having some drinks, we're talking. It feels like they're being rewarded when in essence, at the end of the day, we're actually saving a ton. So doing those activities that feel like a reward, it's still a saving. So I think from a team building perspective, it also feels more personal. It's not, all right, 3:00, everybody in the conference room, we're going to have coffee and bagels. No, now it's like, let's go somewhere and let's spend some time together. It feels like you're out of that environment. Again, I'm genuinely enjoying this new era of remote working and support from AI. I think it's doing wonders for humanity if you take the right approach to it.
Yeah, what an excellent perspective. And Steven, how about for your business? How do you see the rise of remote work and virtual production impacting work dynamics?
Sure. So as far as the rise of remote work, I've got a pretty unique perspective on that. Prior to COVID, Cameo was about 125 people, split between Chicago and LA. We're about 80% in Chicago, 20% in LA, but all in office. As COVID hit and really our business exploded, the size of the company basically tripled, and I had to make a decision. Like, do I keep hiring people in these pools when my offices were closed because we weren't allowed to have, our office in Venice had been shut down because California wasn't letting, people return to work. There were very similar rules happening in Chicago. So we made the decision at that point to just open up the floodgates and hire the best people in the world, no matter where they were. As the business expanded about, 350, 360 people, we ended up with people in 38 states and 30 different countries. And, that is amazing, but it presented some challenges. It's really, really good, I've found, for senior workers and for mid-level workers, like people that already know what they're doing, that really can be given a list to check off. And, it's saving the commute. I mean, when we were in Los Angeles, if you didn't live on the West Side, because our office was in Venice, he didn't work for us, right? And now we could go hire anybody in LA. It didn't matter what side of the 405 you were on. At the same time, where I have found it to be a real struggle is with younger people. We've really thrived at Cameo hiring people right out of college. For many of our workers, this is their first or second job that they've had out of school. And, it isn't the same. We're not able to give the same kind of hands-on training, especially on our sales team, which really is kind of a mini WME CAA mailroom, right? Where so much of the learning happens just by kind of osmosis. You hear the more senior people on the phone with talent, explaining to them, why they should come on the platform. And, when everybody's remote, a lot of those serendipitous conversations don't happen. The other thing that I've found as a leader is you really have to draw out from your employees, the good ideas that happen just, at the water cooler or at lunch. I found it, it's very rare over the last 2-3 years that people would actually hit me up on Slack because, they never worked in person with me. They didn't really know me that well, even though we would bring the company together for gatherings multiple times a year and really prioritize culture through weekly all hands and things like that. So I'm actually, I was one of the first CEOs in Chicago to really, fully send everybody remote. And I've, also in the last 2 years, really been trying to bring people back and reestablish an office culture here in Chicago.
Yeah, it's a balance. And for every company, it's a little bit different. And like you say, depending on the demographics of your workforce, it might change. It's definitely is a challenge as a leader to have to make that shift. And so, Sergio, for you as the CEO of InventTV, you've undoubtedly navigated the dynamic landscape of television production in Hollywood. It's not easy. And what advice would you give to other entertainment businesses looking to thrive in this rapidly changing era?
Access, to be honest. I think everything is about access, who what what you can get to. I think our industry in particular, it's not the easiest by any means, but I feel like it's almost like American Idol, right? Like people for American Idol, you can come from anywhere in the world and get in this line and go and sing and perform and you might get picked. If you have the right access through a friend, a celebrity, a restaurateur, like anything, there is a world where I have access to somebody that could be a show. You obviously have to think through what that is, but I feel like anybody has an opportunity to break into the unscripted space. 90, if not more, percent of any of the big shows ever have to do with professions, from tattooing to cooking to, I mean, what unscripted show doesn't have to do with the profession? So look around. What people do you know of a profession that hasn't been exploited? My next one's going to be on Steven. I'm going after him.
I think he's ready. He's ready for you.
He's ready. I think he's perfect.
Yeah. So, Steven, from your perspective, Cameo successfully blended technology and celebrity culture. So, can you share some key strategies that have allowed this synergy and any lessons that other entertainment businesses can draw from and apply to their own?
Sure. One of the reasons that I think Cameo had been successful, and there were many people that tried to build this business before we did. I can't tell you how many people I've met as we built it that said, "Oh, I had this idea 20 years ago," or we had it. But really, we were kind of the perfect mix of people that had come from industry and also had come from technology. My one co-founder, Martin, was an NFL agent and movie producer. So, kind of the perfect person to be out on the front lines and almost build like a CAA 2.0. And then at the same time, my other co-founder, Devin, was one of the few software engineers in the world that probably had over 1 billion loops on Vine, the social network. So to actually be a creator and have empathy for the end user, and be good enough to actually code it, that was pretty rare. My career, I straddled the line between entertainment, finance, and technology. So I'd been an options trader, which really, helped me think about a lot of the business model that made this work, and things like pricing. When Cameo started, nobody had any idea what they should charge for something like this, and we came up with some pricing strategies for talent that ended up building liquidity and actually making this go. Because it doesn't matter if you have if you have Tom Cruise on Cameo, but he's $100,000 and nobody pays for it. We're in the business of fulfillment and creating magical moments, and that means that the talent needs to be willing, and they need to be priced at a point where the customers are willing to. So from me, it's really make sure you're partnered with people that, if you want to be in sport, if you want to be in entertainment and you want to be in technology, make sure you have both that DNA in there. And of course, building a technology company is very, very like an Instagram or a Snapchat is very different from building an entertainment company. But I think we've been able to do a pretty good job straddling the line and building a unique culture and attracting the right type of person that wants to straddle both lines.
Absolutely. So it's many talents coming together and finding the right combination of people. It's magical, honestly. And you mentioned that piece about the talent sharing these messages. And I just want to tell you that sometimes it just brings such joy to the person who's receiving that message. And I think that there's just such a lack of that generally, that ability to share that kind of joy. And I think that's what's most incredible about it.
Well, that's why we do it, right? We do it because we just create more happiness. So many people ask, like, why do celebrities, put a price next to their name? This is so brand negative. But the truth is, when you watch those reaction videos and you watch how anybody that receives a Cameo becomes a bigger fan of you because they got it, because you said something nice to them. It's the same thing as running into a celebrity in real life and them taking the time to take a picture with you or sign an autograph. That's a story you're going to tell people forever. But now with Cameo, you can put it on social media, show all your friends and family, and they all like you more after it because you did something nice for Sergio. And that's just, you're getting paid to become more famous.
It's just incredible. And so, speaking of bringing joy to a lot of people, Taylor Swift comes to mind. And so in terms of the perspective of diversity inclusion, this year alone, we've witnessed Taylor Swift and Beyonce's iconic tours, the innovative Barbie movie, and more. I find it interesting and exciting that these iconic projects were women-powered. And we've also seen how recent instances such as Disney's casting of Halle Bailey as Ariel and the rising worldwide popularity of K-dramas that have brought diversity to the forefront of the entertainment industry. So how do you see these examples of influencing the industry's approach to diversity and inclusion and ultimately shaping the future of work? And what step can entertainment leaders take to promote diversity and inclusion? Like, what kind of things have you done, Sergio?
Oh, we've done a ton. We've actually worked with the Native American community. As a Latino, I'm focused on also bringing Latinos. I worked with the National Council of La Raza. I did the Alma Awards a few times. For me, it's finding the talented folks that really know what they're doing, right? I like when you have the individuals that just have a vision. I think there's a difference of talking about culture and understanding a culture, right? So when we do these hires, depending on the shows that we're doing, there's just something about when you have somebody from the culture, it just comes natural. When you have other people trying to put it in there, it's very contrived and it doesn't work. So for us, I was raised by only women. So my mom raised me. I have no father figure, no grandfather, no uncles, none of that business. So for me, when it comes to women in the industry, my strongest leaders in my company are all women. And I know that they do 10 times more than I do. Emma Humphrey in particular, Christina, Tiffany, my wife, I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting in bed saying, please turn off the computer. And she works with us and she's still going. It's like, can we go to bed? No, there's work to be done. Meanwhile, I'm ready to go to bed. So, as it pertains to diversity, I think for us, it comes natural. Being diverse, I don't think of it like that. I just feel like if you're good at the job, if you know what you're doing, come on in. I'm not really looking at anybody specifically because they're a woman or African American or Latino or Asian. It just so happens that that seems to be where the intelligence is currently, not to be disparaging to anybody else, but they're just on the forefront right now of what people are interested in viewing. So it works well for us.
That's excellent. And Steven, what does your company do to promote diversity and inclusion in your workforce?
In the workforce or among the platform?
Maybe among the platform as well. Yeah. Is that something that you focus on specifically?
Yeah, sure. So number one, as far as like making sure that we have somebody for everybody on the platform, that's always been really important. We've long believed in a Big Ten philosophy where, we will let anybody on the platform, so long as you abide by the rules that we have on our platform. And, I think that's really critical to making sure that you have diversity in representation and making it seem that this is a place for everybody. As far as at work, and you're seeing this in the box office numbers too, right? It is good business to have. It's not just the right thing to do to build diverse teams, but it's actually like good business to go do that. All the academic research shows that diverse leadership teams make better decisions. They outperform companies that don't have diversity. So, balancing that diversity, whether it's men or women on your leadership team, like different ages, races, sexual orientations. These are all really important. And I'll never forget one of the speakers that we brought into our company, a guy named Shaka, who's probably one of the best in the Valley right now on helping teams build these type of leaderships. He once said, dope people create dope culture, and you can't have a dope culture without dope people, right? And making sure that you've got folks from all different walks of life coming in. That's really what makes it pop and makes it special. And again, when you think about the box office, look at what Taylor Swift's done. She's broken every record. Look at what the Barbie movie's done. Look at what Beyonce's done. We see this on Cameo when you're thinking about the Real Housewives or talent like that just always outperform. So we're huge fans of diversity, and it's been great to see whether it's Black Panther or Barbie, these people that haven't historically been given the starring role suddenly doing it, and those audiences are certainly craving it.
Are you talking about Shaka Senghor, by the way?
Exactly, yeah.
I love Shaka. We were going to do a show on him a long time. That guy is such a great character.
He's the best. Actually, I was education chair of YPO Chicago last year, and I actually brought him to speak to our chapter in the Cook County Jail, and he gave a talk to our chapter and a bunch of the inmates as well. It was incredibly powerful.
We had him right before COVID, so we were developing something with him. Tell him I said hello. I'll reach out. I haven't talked to Shaka in a while. Love that.
No, he's the best. His book's called Righting My Wrongs. Highly recommended if you haven't read it.
Yeah. Shaka went to prison for murder, I believe, and just turned his life around. Like, just a great storyteller, really great guy.
And and like goes from prison to becoming like the chief people officer at Trip Action. It's unbelievable.
Great story.
Those stories are so inspiring. So we have a couple of questions from the audience. So it's going back to the AI topic. It says, given the one-dimensional nature of AI, do you see a growing need for AI editors? Now, I don't know exactly what an AI editor is. Sergio, do you know what that is? And perhaps can you elaborate on that?
I mean, I can guess on what it is, but again, back to the human touch. Networks send notes that are very specific that I don't think AI could pick up on that tone and what needs to be done. So currently we are not using AI editors. We're not creating, images with AI. And I know that that is possible and people are doing that. But for what we do scripted and unscripted. But in both of our genres right now, we are not currently accessing AI editors, no.
Okay, interesting. Thank you. And another question from the audience is, how can leaders in entertainment protect the mental health of actors and celebrities? Is there a role? And Steven, is that something you can answer?
Well, I mean, look, I think when you're thinking about the strike and what's going on right now, one of the stats that has really just horrified me, and I'm happy at Cameo we're helping with this, is that of the 160,000 members of the Screen Actors Guild, 86% of them didn't make enough money last year in a non-strike year to actually qualify for their healthcare benefits, right? Which is crazy. And to do that, all you need to do is get $26,500, which is not even what you would make at a part-time job. We need to do better as an industry. We need to find ways to make it so that there is a better safety net for people to come and pursue their dreams. And when you think about the amount of money that people make by being an extra and the treatment that they get, I've been on movie sets before. It's really tough. So at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of work that we all need to do as an industry. And look, at Cameo, we're excited to be helping. We signed a deal with SAG about 6 months ago, making us the first social platform in the world where your earnings that you do for Cameo for Business actually accrue to your SAG healthcare and pension benefits. So that's something that they're able to do right now, even while they're striking. And at the same time, other things like going to Comic-Cons or selling merch. We own a merch business. They can't promote that. They can't promote movie IP right now. So it's going to be a really tough year for a lot of people in the industry. And, and I'm hoping that whenever the dust settles on this, like we really have a more fair, equitable, work environment for these creative folks that, all they want to do is entertain us.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Thank you. And as we wrap up our conversation, let's look ahead. What does your crystal ball show you for the coming years? How is the entertainment industry going to change? How is the workforce going to change? And, outside the AI that we've already talked about, what do all these changes in entertainment mean for the global business overall? Sergio, what's your thought?
So look, for unscripted, I see it like marriage, right? Sickness and health, richness or poor, till death do you part. You come home in a good economy, bad economy, and what do? You turn on the TV, you watch a little programming, and then you call it a day and you go to bed. How you consume is changing. What you consume, I don't think is. So how do I see the future? Who's going to be the next iteration of how we consume things, right? Like 10 years ago, if you ask me what's happening 10 years from today, I have no clue. Because 10 years ago, there was no TikTok. There was no Instagram. There was none of this. There was no AI. So, but just the same, people are still tuning into entertainment, whether it's American Idol, whether it's Housewives, whether it's Oprah interviews, people are still tuning in. So where do I see the future? Good storytelling. Content is always king. Tell a good story, make something binge worthy. I don't think our industry is going to change much in how things are. It'll get easier, I'll tell you that. You could record a show now 4K uncompressed on your phone. It'll get easier to make content, and obviously what Steven does in the future of like getting people out to the world, you'll have more access to things, but at the end of the day, you're still going to want to see a well-produced show, scripted or unscripted, with good drama, good storytelling, and good payoff.
I totally agree that you can't go wrong with really great storytelling. everyone wants to see that. They want to see something relatable, something that they can associate with. And like you said, it's escapism in some ways, and builds relationships. So how about from your perspective, Steven?
Look, for me, it starts and ends with distribution. And I think distribution, while the content might not be changing, what is changing and has changed in a huge way is the way that content is being distributed and put out to the masses. There's three truths that we've always talked about Cameo. Number one, there's more famous people in the world today than there were yesterday, and there's going to be more tomorrow than there are now. Two, people are more famous in absolute terms than they've ever been. I use that Messi example, right? He's got 600 million followers. Michael Jordan, the only people that watched him play 20 years ago were those that were watching live, and maybe that's tens of millions that are doing it. And then the thing that's really unintuitive that I think like most people still haven't understood is that the 15 minutes of fame today in the digital age actually can last for 15 years. It lasts as long as you have a platform. So if somebody blows up on one of Sergio's reality shows and they get 1 million followers on TikTok, just because that show is only one season, it doesn't mean that their followers are going to go away. So I always like to say, like, if you're a one-hit wonder in 2023, like you'll have a platform and you'll be relevant, and direct-to-fan monetization is going to be the way that you go do that. I think the other big trend that we're seeing in the industry, and as kind of Elon Musk has bought Twitter and renamed it X.com, but before that, so much of what was being talked about in Hollywood was really cancel culture. And I do think there's this big trend of creators and talent needing to own, not rent, their audience from the social networks, because you never know when you're going to do something that causes you to go afoul. And, we've seen everybody from Kathy Griffin and others that, maybe put a tweet out there and suddenly they lose their whole platform. So I do think that there's going to be a big trend in the next 10 years towards talent actually finding ways to own their own distribution as opposed to rent it from the social networks.
That's actually really interesting. I hadn't contemplated that before. And that brings me back to the Taylor Swift example of distributing through the AMC theaters, which is actually it's just such a brilliant thing that she did. And so again, changing the distribution, right, is kind of what you're referring to there.
Yeah, and owning and going direct to your fans. You got to know them and you got to own them. If you take care of your fans, they'll take care of you.
I love that. Yeah. And so back to the audience here, we have what ways can entertainment businesses contribute to advancing sustainability and social responsibility? I know that sustainability is a huge conversation in physical production. It's something that we talk about at every table that I sit at here in British Columbia and Canada. And how about from both of your perspectives, what ways do you feel that your businesses can contribute to advancing sustainability and social responsibility?
Our team our team in the field, they're very good about, not just the recycling, but what's on set. And actually with some of our celebrity shows, they don't allow certain things on set. The carbon purchases with different groups, that's something that, they end up doing. But I think in general, being from California, which we're known as green hippies, like we're always making an effort. Like you won't walk onto one of our sets and there's plastic cups and things, we do the best that we can, as responsibly as we can. But, I don't know. I think we do it naturally. I don't think we do it because we have to do it, which is the right way to be. I think you should care about where you live on this earth and take care of what you have, similar to your own health. Take care of your planet. I think that just, as a native Californian, it just comes natural here. You can't live any other way here. I mean, we have Whole Foods, for God's sakes. Like, you just got to be organic.
Yeah, and I think it's also because we have that infrastructure is available to us. You're in California, we're in British Columbia, and I've been on some international calls where they just don't have the capacity to have clean energy or whatever it might be. So it's definitely challenging in more other regions than others. I also think that there's a responsibility into the entertainment industry and that climate storytelling, making sure that everything they see on the screen is representative. I watched a movie a little while ago where all the Christmas presents were wrapped in fabric and not in paper. It's something they talked about, but it's just what they were doing, which I thought was quite interesting because they're demonstrating that it is possible. So that kind of climate storytelling is interesting too. And another question here is, what are the opportunities globally for creators and audiences outside the US? Like we talked a little bit about creators before having many other platforms and ways to put themselves out there. But also, I also feel it's a bit more challenging because there's almost a dilution that happens because now everybody has the opportunity to be famous, and it's not just necessarily who you know. So what are you seeing as those opportunities going forward? Are they bigger? Are they better? What are the best ways in?
A lot of the biggest innovation has actually come from outside of the U.S. in the space. When you think of probably the behemoth, when you think of the creator economy, you really can't not talk about OnlyFans. And OnlyFans is something that actually came from the UK, right? And it's a business paying out billions of dollars a year to creators globally. When you look at what's going on in China, South Korea, Japan, so many really innovative formats to help people, take their passion and monetize it on the internet. So I think, we're in a global golden age of, like I mentioned, the CEO of Patreon calls this the next renaissance. And I think the creative explosion that's popping off right now is really special.
That term creative explosion. I like that too. You're giving me lots of good ones today, Steven.
Steven, I don't know if you know this, but the CEO of OnlyFans is a YPOer as well.
Amy, she's a good friend of mine.
Oh, right on. Yeah.
Like it's such an incredible network. And you talked about the importance of that earlier, Sergio. It's, those people that you know. Excellent.
Yeah,
and so back to
for us, international is huge because if you sell something actually international and bring it in, you own the rights. So American Idol and those shows that are, the Endemals of the world are now Benajay, with Chris Abrego and Ben Samick and all of those folks. Like they retain those rights and then sell it US. That is really, from a financial perspective, a golden goose. So bringing international formats or ideas into the US is just huge.
Yeah, one other thing I'll mention that we see in our business a lot, because something like 25-30% of our business comes from overseas. Tools like Cameo are really exciting because they can allow for diaspora acts to reach their audience. I'm Greek, and we have a lot of the Greek singers on Cameo, for example, and they mostly get booked by people in the US, Canada, and Australia. So that's a really cool example. Or you can imagine the Bollywood star that is getting booked by the Indian Americans, which are the most prosperous ethnic group in the United States. So I think what this technology is doing, it's making the world smaller, and talent are global. Their fans are all over the world. That's a phenomenon that social media has created.
I didn't know you were Greek. Hierete, Kyrie, Catalaveno ligo Helenica. Do you speak Greek?
That's good. That's legal, but your Greek's pretty damn good.
No, thanks.
Sergio, you also speak Mandarin.
I do, yes.
That's amazing.
I can hardly speak English.
I told you, Gemma, I have issues.
I think you've done pretty well. So one more question here from the audience, and then we'll flip back to my final question here. But on cancel culture, back to cancel culture. And I have to say, it's not something that I've heard as much about in the last year that I had in the years prior. But generally, as leaders, how can you effectively navigate and respond to cancel culture?
Well, I do think the pendulum's swinging back, really hard. I think that wokeism and so much of the cancel culture movement, it was well intended, but the line got crossed, and it became, it really got to a point where people they were scared to express any dissenting point of view. Like I would say this in my company all the time. Like we talk about, wanting diversity, but if someone's got a different perspective, it's diversity as so long as you conform to the same social norms and social, thoughts as everybody else, right? That's not diversity. We need to, and at Cameo, one of the things that we always try to do is make sure that we're allowing, all different types of people on the platform. So do I like every single person that's on Cameo? I don't, right? But it's our job as a platform to allow them the opportunity to make money and connect with their fans, so long as they abide by the rules that we have. No inciting violence, no hate speech, no nudity, among three of the big ones. But that's how we've played it.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. And so off to my final question. As a member of YPO, what benefits have you or your family enjoyed by belonging to this community? And what do you think founders, entrepreneurs, and business leaders can gain by belonging to this type of organization? Sergio.
Well, personally, I just love when you could say forum confidential to somebody, right, and have a conversation where like, I want to talk to you about something, and being in obviously forums, like, you know, the gravity of that conversation and the seriousness of it. From a family perspective, I was just at our president's retreat. One of the things that I'm now implementing with my family is even holding forum with your kids. I have 2 teenagers and a 7-year-old, and now we get together and we have that same conversation once a month. What are your top 5 highs and lows? Like, it's actually really great to do with your kids. So implementing it on a personal level is phenomenal. From a business perspective, I'm here with Steven and you, Gemma, for God's sakes. Like, where on earth would that happen where, you know, we could just have a conversation like, oh, you're YPO, let's talk. It's not like, what do you want? No, and on my side, you could only imagine how many times we get just the most horrible pitches and ideas. And even if it's coming from a fellow YPOer, I actually get to laugh about it because they're YPO. So I could say, listen, love that you're a YPO. That's a fucking horrible idea. Sorry, my mouth. But just to say, it's a horrible idea, but I get to say it with confidence because it's YPO. Like, they're not going to get offended. They understand that they're pitching something bad. But I get to tell them with more authenticity of why it's a bad idea. And in some cases, from a sales perspective, access is everything. YPO is access. So if you want to sell unscripted, again, you have access to some of the top things in the world because of YPO. So personally, I love it all around, from the network I'm in with Sports and Entertainment Business Network to my Hollywood chapter. All around is just great people. I haven't found one person that I'm not like, wow, you're not an amazing human being that I want to socialize with.
Yeah.
Including
There's just incredible things to learn from everyone. And I hadn't contemplated doing the forum format with my kids.
It's
but
so great.
It's
so
amazing.
Great.
And I have to tell you, so my kids are both actually in California University, and one in particular, she has her own forum, and she's meeting with other, 21-year-olds, and they're having a lot of the same experiences. And so it's brought her great value. And she has that group of people that are at that level of forum confidential that she can, kind of bounce ideas off of. That has been one of the biggest benefits for me, is that YNG aspect.
Yep.
And how about for you, Steven?
Like, same thing. I think it starts with a forum. My forum has been, not just forum, but it's the personal board of directors. It's the people I go to first for everything. My forum has changed my life probably more than anything I've done, except for starting Cameo, which enabled me to get into that forum in the first place. So can't speak highly enough about it. I've gotten super involved in the YPO Chicago chapter. I'm also a member of YPO Miami. I split time between the two of them. Vice chair of Chicago now, just coming off a year. And one of the fun things was, as I was the education chair of YPO Chicago, as a bunch of different chapters like YPO New Orleans, YPO Philly were coming to Chicago for their presidents' retreats. I got to help them and meet them and speak at their gatherings, and just meeting great people. And you see someone's YPO, like what the standard is, and I found the network to just be incredible.
That's amazing. I appreciate how involved you are. What you put in is what you get out. That's what they say. So any final words, Sergio or Steven, before I do a little wrap up?
My only final word is, Gemma, you belong on TV. Like, even when you're reading whatever you're reading, it doesn't feel like you're reading a prompter. It feels so natural that, honestly, it's impressive. This is phenomenal.
You knew I was reading, Sergio. You knew I was reading.
But it's just, you just come off so like natural. Like, I got this. It's great. I mean, we do this all the time for a living, so I know when people are reading a prompter, but your intonation is spot on. You've done a great job. So my final thought is, you're pretty badass. Thank you.
And thank you. It is truly an honor to be here with both of you. And I really appreciate your time and your energy and your enthusiasm, because it just makes it just an incredible experience for everyone. So I'll say thank you there. And I'll say to all those that are on the call or watching, if you enjoyed this episode, let us know by sharing it with your friends, followers, connections. And don't forget to follow us on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, or YouTube, so you can be one of the first people to learn about our next episode. I'm Gemma Martini, and this was YPO Presents Ask the Experts. I still can't say that. Ask the Experts.
How perfect that is.
I know.
Control.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
See you guys.